Take a seat, Darren. Cheers, mate. Thank you for joining us. You've got a busy schedule, I'm sure.
Pretty flat out at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, you're executive chef of this amazing complex.
Yeah, it's a big complex, keeps on growing.
It's pretty massive, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a couple of clubs as well, so this is the main one.
Yeah, right. So tell me about how you got into cooking and what made you fall into this trap of cooking.
I fell into this trap, I think, when I was 12. My family were in the industry. I remember going to the Sheraton, and they had really top hats, and I went, I want to do that.
Right.
And my sister was lucky enough, she got the job before me. She became F&B, front of house restaurant manager, and she got me in as a kitchen head.
Right.
So then from kitchen head, I was lucky enough and then unfortunate enough that the first year kind of cut himself pretty bad.
How old were you at this stage?
14,
Yep.
9 months. I had to get a letter to release me from year 10 to get into the kitchens. So it was always what I wanted to do.
Did you like school?
I liked school, but I wasn't particularly good at school.
Sure. I know
It's
the
funny
feeling.
because
Yeah, I know the feeling.
now I'm married to a school teacher.
Really?
So it's an interesting train of events. But that's how I got into the industry. I remember still being at that lunch with my dad, 12 years old, I wanted to do that.
Right.
And that's what I did.
So you started a cooking apprenticeship?
Started the first year cooking apprenticeship, right take. Spent it through Sheraton Airport. Very lucky to do it in an environment similar to here, where you have multiple aspects, different areas, from pastry, larder, saucier. Unfortunately, these sort of elements today are dying in our industry, hence why we need to encourage more youth to come through. But yeah, at the Sheraton straight away.
When you were at school, some of these kids, I believe, had the opportunity to do cooking at school whilst they're at school.
Yeah, we actually have quite a few come through here too.
Yeah, great. And did you have that chance as well? Or?
Yeah, not as much, to be honest with you. We just did work placement back then. Was only 1 week, once in the whole time. And I did it at the Sheraton because I had an avenue in. But I was brought up in Lanao, and there wasn't a lot of sort of restaurant sort of trade that I could get into, so I had to write letters to everyone to try and get it.
Yeah. And did you enjoy the cooking apprenticeship?
I loved it. I ended up staying 5 years at the Sheraton. So
Wow.
like I said, the aspects, I think I learned more about life in an apprenticeship than you think you do anywhere else.
That's a very good point. It's because you get to meet different people and see different experiences and things like that.
Yeah.
And did you find the hours were long and the money not great during that apprenticeship? Did that deter you, or you didn't even think about it?
I think when you were young enough to do the apprenticeship straight away, one, money wasn't the focus anyway. The hours are long, but you want to do it, so it doesn't really matter. And when you're younger and you've got the passion to do it more and more and more, you actually put your hand up to do the hours, not that you're asked to do the hours. I think if you've got the initiative to move forward, then the hours just come with it. But they're not really hours, because I'd rather be here than doing something else, and still to this day.
And, as I was saying in the first few years of my cooking apprenticeship, you don't really get to cook the fish and meat, and you're peeling onions, washing pots and things like that. You're learning how a kitchen works and functions, and that's not a bad thing, because I think often I look back and think, my God, if I hadn't have done those things, I wouldn't be sitting here now.
No, you need to learn the dynamics of the kitchen, the hierarchy of the kitchen. I think you need to also see the respect level of how much the guys are put in before you to get to where they're at. And then that way you have to do the smaller jobs. But if you were to jump in and I'll give you a $64 piece of meat one day, I think the more onions and potatoes you peel, the more respect you have for what financial aspects are in our industry. So you've got to learn about minimising wastage and bits and pieces, and that all comes from starting from the bottom.
Yeah, very good comments. Did you ever think about throwing it in the apprenticeship, or even in these later years in cooking?
Well, I've had a bit of an up and down career. I've jumped in, jumped out, jumped in, jumped
Well, tell
out.
us about the downs, because we've all had plenty of downs, and I want to hear about them, but also how you got up again.
All right, so I don't know. It wasn't ever downs. It was just like yourself. Once I qualified, the first time I thought about leaving the career was in my third year. And
So what, you're about 18 or something?
Yeah, 17, 18. And my dad said, nah, not happening. So we went up to the Gold Coast because we had a family home up there as well. And we went up there, and he just sat me down and just said, you've got to make it, at least you've got something behind you. It doesn't matter what you do in the future, at least you've got something behind you. So I went back and it found a new energy for it.
Right.
And got in and got it done, but then looked at it in a different way. So I got back up in that respect.
Right.
But the reason I really wanted to become a chef was to travel. I always thought, how can you travel the world and work? And I thought, well, being a chef's a pretty good idea.
It's the perfect way.
Yeah. So as soon as I got the papers, I was at the airport actually on a flight to London the day I got the papers, because my brother called me and said, oh, your papers are here, and I'm like, I'm already on a flight.
Wow.
So,
and you cooked in London as well?
Yeah, I went to London. I was moved around in London. What I thought I learned in Australia through my apprenticeship was nothing compared to once I hit London. It's a different game. Like you said, in different languages, different hours. That's where the hours are the hours. What we work in Australia and what you work in London for what you work for is a big eye opener. So that was. I didn't really settle in London. I know you lasted a few years, but I only lasted a couple of years, and then I got offered to move to the States.
Right.
So I was down a little bit at that point, but then I got myself up and went on with it.
Wow. And now you just love?
I love it.
You've got 5 restaurants here in this incredible... Is that right? I oversee 5 restaurants or 6 restaurants?
Yeah, a few.
And banquets and things like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, non-stop. But that's the thing that's really good about being a chef. I think if you're in IT or if you're in something else, you're in front of a computer, you're dealing with that situation. In our aspect, we have multiple situations moving at any point in time. So it's not like I'm in a little shell. I come to work, I don't know what I'm going to have on.
Yeah.
And that's the same with service. And that's what keeps drawing me back into the industry.
That's pretty cool. You've had a good journey, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I'm still going. I actually left it to move into more of a managerial role in Fiji. So I was lucky enough, like I've worked in London, I worked in New York, I've worked in Taos, New Mexico,
All cooking?
New Mexico, all cooking.
How cool's that?
And then luckily I came back, and then I went to North Queensland into the resort islands, then Fiji into the resort islands a few times, and then back into Sydney.
Man, I want your job.
And then I've come back now, and I'm really enjoying where I'm at.
Yeah, right. Any advice for these guys who are thinking, they're at that stage of their life where they're thinking of what to do as a career?
Just take your time and do it right. Don't want it now, because if you want it now, you're not going to have it later. I think if you take your time, and it's like the apprenticeship is 4 years for a reason, because it takes time to know that that's what you want to do. Because once you've done 4 years, you don't really turn back on it. So I think if you know what you want to do today, it might be different tomorrow, that's fine. But if you're going to get into an apprenticeship, stick it out. And just having an apprenticeship will take you into so many different avenues in life. You won't just be in Revesby, you won't just be in Wollongong. You will get out, you will go to London. At the moment, I've got friends in the Caribbean, Vietnam, Fiji, London, New York, all over, because you meet so many different people in this industry.
And I think what you're saying, which is really good, and no matter what career you go in, there's always going to be ups and downs. And I think what you said, how you've got back, you've had those downs and you've jumped back up. But you've got to think what this industry can give you by doing what Darren has said, travelling the world, meeting the different people and learning. But what you put into it is only what you will get out of it. And I always say to my young apprentices, if you make a chicken stock, what you put into that chicken stock is what you're going to get out of it. So it's got to be the freshest herbs and garlic and carrots and celery and onions and things like that, and bring it to the boil and simmer it for 4 to 6 hours and love it, and all that beautiful flavour is going to come out. And what has gone into that stock, that love and attention you've given it, will come out. And that's what you've got to do with this business, this industry. So if you want to become a great chef or restaurant person, you've got to put in some hard work. And I hope some of you have. And is there any questions for Darren while he's here? Yes, if you can stand up, please, at the back. What's the question?
What's the most hardest thing of being in a kitchen?
What's the hardest thing of being in a kitchen?
I think you need to go into the kitchens with a sense of respect of where you're at and stuff like that. The hardest thing about being in a kitchen is very similar. It's people management. Do you know what? I don't see any of it hard because I enjoy it. And I think that's the difference is, like I've been in kitchens where we've had blackouts on a Christmas Eve, 120 seat restaurant, just me and an apprentice with a 40, 50 degree kitchen, and we were cooking with our mobile phone lights. And they're the moments that you go, that was really hard. That was the craziest thing I've ever done in a kitchen. And I look at it 4 years later and go, it was one of the best moments I've ever had in the kitchen. So the hardest thing, I think, is when you first get in there is learning to learn, because you're learning at school at the moment, but it's very different in our industry because you've got multiple people telling you what to do. Once you master that, everything's all right.
Jamie Oliver or Gordon Ramsay?
I've worked for both.
Really?
So, Ramsay by a mile.
By a mile?
Yeah.
How did you put up with Ramsay's kitchen temper?
You know what? They wander in and wander out, so I did a bit of staging for both, and I worked with Jamie when he came out to Sydney and did his cooking expos and stuff like that. So, yeah, the tempers are just there, but they're there if for show a lot of the time too. They're not actually really there. And a big believer of what happens in service stays in service. If you have a blow up on a Saturday night, you walk out, it's done.
Yeah, cool, good. Any other questions? Yes.
What are the gender ratios in the kitchen, and are there many women in management positions?
The gender ratios in the kitchens, and what was the end of that?
And are there many women in management?
Are there many women in kitchen?
Well, if you look at Revesby, for instance, we have a higher ratio of female employment than we do male. I also think in management positions it's very similar. I think it's about 50-50. Kind of quote me on that. In the kitchen, a totally different dynamic. I would say at the moment my kitchen is definitely 50-50. When you look at the seniority of the kitchen, I have 3 sous chefs at the moment, and two of the strongest ones that I have are both female.
And the sous chefs being the second chef?
Yeah.
That's under you?
Yeah. So they, I basically take care of all the other stuff, and they basically run the kitchens, and phenomenal. So, to be honest with you, it's a stronger female base in the hospitality industry, especially in my environment, than a lot of people think.
I think women are better cooks anyway.
I don't know. I'll let Daniel.
At the back there.
Darren, what do you look for in applicants when they are an apprentice or coaching?
To be honest
What
with
do you look for in a young chef who comes?
Just a passion to want to do it. Like, you can come with a bit of uncertainty that you're not 100% sure what you want to do, but if you give it a go, I think you'll find that it's actually not what you hear about. If you want to be the next Gordon Ramsay, great, get in and give it a go, but don't expect to be there in 2 years. And I think that's the thing that's being lost at the moment in our industry, is people need to get in there, start at the grassroots, and learn why you do it that way. And trust me, the money is not as bad as a lot of people think. And the hours aren't as bad as a lot of people think as well, especially in our sort of environment. Most of my chefs at the moment are working between 38 and 45 hours a week.
Yeah.
When I was an apprentice, I was working anywhere between 70 and 80 hours a week. So it's definitely changed. But that's what I would want.
Any other questions? Yes, go for it.
I just want to ask a question about the MasterChef shows and all those things that are happening out there, and what your thoughts are on them, and is it changing our industry from your perspective?
So the question is, what do you think about MasterChef, My Kitchen Rules, and does it, what's your perspective of it all?
Well, it'd be interesting to get mine and your take on that. But I think it was good initially to bring a lot of focus. A lot of chefs got a lot of exposure out of it, helped our restaurants out quite a bit. Got a couple of friends that are on those shows and stuff like that. I think a lot of it nowadays, it's a bit, it's touched by our industry in a way. It's not exactly authentic. I think there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on. I think they also play on the stigma of the old style, the way it used to be in our industry. I support what they've done to bring attraction to the industry, but I don't support some of the things that happen in those shows. So it's good and bad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree very much. I don't watch a lot of it, but I think it's brought a presence to our industry of great ingredients as well, and producers. But it can be also a bit far-fetched. It's not the real deal, I guess. So don't get suckered by that one. Yeah. Any other questions? Going once? We got one? Where? Go. Yes.
Sorry, was that? Nah, I
What was
don't
the
have
question?
to
What was the
manage it
question?
myself.
What was it?
Or do I role play Gordon?
He plays himself. There we go. Very good. All right. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Okay. Big round of applause for Darren Cook.
Thank you, Darren. And George,
How good were they? Huh?
fantastic. Has everyone learned a lot so far?
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, the inside scoop, things which you're not going to read about. I want to take this opportunity to thank Luke. You're one of Australia's most high-profile chefs, and it is people like you who are investing back in our industry which will make us stronger. It's from my point of view in recruitment, you're the future. So please take advantage of today. The people who are here, ask plenty of questions. Think about what you've heard today, and don't forget it, because this is a fantastic opportunity for you starting today. Please thank Luke for his time. Thank you.